We are kicking off our July 2020 Higher Education Tableau User Group meeting with a packed agenda. We'll start with our announcements, and I want to be the first to say happy birthday to the HETUG. It is the start of our 4th year as the Higher Education TUG, and it's our birthday / anniversary this month. And we'd love to thank you for being with us. And that's why you might see further down something about a raffle and a sticker design contest, but more on that later. So today we're going to have meet a community member with Jessica Edwards from Columbia University, followed by tips for tricky transfer calculations, which is going to be even harder for me since I seem to be a bit tongue-tied today. And then our Tableau Sorting Hat sort demonstration that was carried over from last month. But before we get started, I do want to invite anyone to come off of mute and share announcements you might have, whether that's events that people might be interested in or job openings. If you don't feel like coming off mute, you can also share those in the chat and on our Slack group as well.
Hi, I will give an announcement. Speaking of birthdays, happy birthday, HETUG. It is also the California Community College's birthday next month, and our meeting's on the 14th, and we are having a birthday data challenge. So we are inviting folks to visualize how common is the CCCTUG's birthday. And I'll put the link in the chat. Oh, Joe, she's already on it. So we invite anyone to create a viz and then bring it to the meeting and show it off to everyone, talk about it, talk about challenges, things that you like, all that stuff. So we hope to see you there.
That sounds like a ton of fun. Happy birthday to you guys too. Any other announcements from the group? I saw some job postings in the chat before the meeting started. Anybody want to share those?
Or is anyone looking for a position that just wants to share, hey, I'm out there. Feel free to come off mute.
Good point.
Hi, this is David Lishka. I just completed a contract at Southern Methodist University ending yesterday. So if anybody has any types of institutional research type positions available, I'd be happy to take a look. I'm in the Dallas area, but also looking at potentially relocating to Virginia, Lower Pennsylvania, or Northern North Carolina. Thanks.
Hey, we'd love to have you in North Carolina.
All right. Well, I've got one announcement, if I can make the screen go. Tableau is doing a data camp. It's sort of like a data summer camp, boot camp, whatever you want to call it, for educators and students. So if you know any educators in your institution or friends who teach Tableau, or know students who are learning Tableau or would like to learn Tableau, they are having some free boot camps. A couple of them are in person. So there's an educator and student one in London, and then students in New York and educators in Chicago. But there's also going to be some virtual opportunities. So we have, Ginny is about to post the links in the chat. So you can register for the in-person versions and the virtual ones. There's going to be a Trailhead quest in Trailhead and in the Salesforce e-learning tool. And educators, they'll be recording the data camp content and posting it. But there is a link to get to register to be notified when those links and recordings are available. And that is all in the chat right now. So that's it for announcements, I think, unless last call. All right, let's move on.
I wish they'd had data camp when I was a student. All right, so we are going to have a swag raffle. So you see 2 different QR codes here on the screen that you could scan. And one of them is going to be a raffle for Tableau's e-learning courses. That's the one with the Tableau icon in the middle. And the other one is going to be for a sticker giveaway.
Nope. we messed up we messed it up. Sorry, we did not practice the slide at
No.
all. So the left one is about what the prize will be. The right one is to enter the raffle.
That's right.
Sorry.
No, thank you. I don't want to speak out of place. Yes. E-learning raffle. Left side is for learning about what you're going to sign up for. Right side is for entering to win.
And there's going to be a couple more opportunities. You'll see this again, and the links are in the chat somewhere. I will post them again because, you know, we can.
Exactly. All right. So those are our big announcements today. And then we'll move straight into our Meet a Community member with Jessica Edwards, who is a collections analysis librarian at Columbia University. That sounds like a very interesting job, and I can't wait to hear more about it. So Jessica, as I said, is a collections analysis librarian, where she works on projects related to library collections, usage data, and publishing trends to help support strategic collection development and management. Prior to this role, she was the data coordinator for the Montana State Library, where she helped implement the agency's Tableau reporting practice. So Jessica, welcome. Thank you for being with us today. We're going to start with our typical Meet a Community member questions, followed by our dashboard spotlight, where Jessica gets to share a dashboard that she has selected. So Jessica, start by telling us a little about yourself and describing your role and your team.
Sure. So my role, I'm very project-based. So I work on a lot of projects to support development and management and acquisitions. So a lot of what we look at are trends over time. So we're not like looking at a single thing and making a snap decision. We're looking to inform decisions. How can we make better decisions to help support our users and help make better use of what are becoming more limited budgets, and how can this help guide us a bit through all of this. So like Ginny said, I look at a lot of usage data, a lot of open access data, a lot of publication data, a lot of holdings data, just kind of a little bit of everything. I am on a team that works a lot with electronic resources. I'm the only one of me on my team, but there's another one of me in another library. We have many libraries on campus, and we also have a separate, I believe, a separate assessment team that does a lot of other work with Tableau, and that's a team of 2 people. So we all kind of try to work together, and we have a working group that we work on together for different data analysis projects and data analysis needs. But it's kind of a unique role that we're trying to still figure out how we can all mesh together and collaborate. But it's really interesting and really fun work.
That's awesome. So you've already touched on this a little, but if you want to elaborate on what kind of data do you work with?
Yeah, so a lot of electronic resource usage data. So whenever you log into a library catalog and look at an e-journal or a book or an article, once you click into one and you're reading it, it counts as a use. So we collect that data every month, and we look at it, and it tells us who's using our materials, how much they're using it, and just all of that information. And so that's the bulk of what we look at, and that really helps guide our purchasing and guide our decisions. We also look at a lot of what's not being used because we don't have it. So what are our users looking for but can't get to? And that's called turnaway data. So if somebody is looking for a particular journal article, but we don't have that journal, or we do have access to something, but we've already used up all of our licenses, we want to know that, because that will maybe we want to purchase it at the next round of like our fiscal year purchasing. So that kind of information really helps us. We also look at publication output data. So where are our researchers publishing? Where are our different authors and faculty publishing? Who are they collaborating with? Who's funding this work? How is it being used? And how can we help support that? There's different read and publish agreements that the libraries can support and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we want to learn more about that. We also look at holdings data and titles data. We get a lot of offers for different books and journals and resources that we can purchase. And we need to know what we already have. Are these offers good? Should we look at them? And we kind of do like overlap analyses to see if they're worth our time, if there's demand for them, that kind of stuff. So just a lot of this data is kind of the stuff that we all look at. There's also print circulation. Print is still a thing. So we do look at print data as well. And like I said before, our assessment team looks at a lot of the our physical on the ground usage data, like the users coming into the library, and they take a look at all of that. So like people use the library. We have a lot of students coming in. So they look at all of those numbers and they do a really great job with that data as well.
I never would have guessed there was so much library data, but that's awesome. And it sounds like it's really important for use in decision making too. So how do you use Tableau at work?
So there's actually a couple ways. So the traditional way is I have desktop and prep, and I do a lot of either ongoing analyses for different collections if we're tracking things monthly and we just want to look at trends over time, or if I need to generate kind of one-off things for a report for management, if we need some like static images to support a report or graphs or things. There's always something like that. We also have a platform that's specialized for libraries that essentially it harvests our library collections data. So all of that e-resource data that I was talking about, and they store it for us, and they provide a Tableau server environment where we can create custom dashboards and reports with the data, and then manipulate those dashboards, customize them. I think I already said that. There's something in library data called a counter standard that many providers use to make the reporting much more consistent. But because we have so many platforms and so many providers and hundreds to go through, it's just so much easier to kind of outsource the data harvesting and have it run automatically through these APIs, and then have it stored and have it pushed out to this Tableau server environment. So then we could use it that way. So it's essentially one instance, a Tableau desktop, and then a separate instance, a Tableau server managed by a different party. And they have to live kind of separately just because of the way it's set up. But it's an incredible product that is saving a ton of time and effort, and is really allowing us to take a much deeper look at data that we didn't really have the time to even just gather, let alone look at before. So those are the two ways. And then sometimes taking data from one and merging it with the other if we are able to.
So do you have a favorite Tableau project that you've worked on?
Yeah. So in my previous role in Montana, I worked primarily with public library data. So one project was taking many years, I think a decade maybe, of public library statistics from the annual IMLS report to develop a dashboard to show trends by individual libraries and statewide, and also to compare Montana libraries to libraries of different states and different territories. And just to be able to make these comparisons and to drill down to like per capita, so we can just look at everything. And that was really interesting and really fun, just because it was such a huge data set, and it was public data, so it was really easy to gather, and it was just a really great time to kind of put it all together and to show people what we could do with this data. And it was a really, really great project. It was also fun to do some light mapping with it. Montana State Library has a really strong GIS program. The state GIS shop is actually part of the library, so they have all sorts of great mapping tools. But it was really fun to do some mapping in Tableau and not have to rely on some of the other mapping tools, and show that we could also do a little bit of it in Tableau and kind of embed it in there and really do a really fun little project out of it.
Yeah, any excuse to play with the maps in Tableau is a good one. So how long have you been using Tableau and how did you learn it?
I think probably 5 years, 4 or 5 years. So I first learned it in that role in Montana. And we had a Tableau subscription prior to my role being created, but nobody had used it. Nobody had the time to figure out how to use it. So I just did it. Basically, I went into Tableau Public and found the dashboards that looked interesting and downloaded them and tried to recreate them with some of our data and see what worked and what didn't, and just kind of went from there and adapted as needed, which worked for the most part. Kind of like made a weird Frankenstein's monster of a lot of things at first, but I think it was a really great way for me to learn it. That's how I learn a little bit better. So it worked out okay.
Yeah. So what is your favorite Tableau feature?
I would say prep, just because it works really well for a lot of our purposes. I know other people probably have other options or other preferred ways to clean their data or prep it or whatever. For a lot of what we do, it's easy to use for repeated tasks, and we can just create a flow for certain things and just save it and run it again quarterly or something. Especially if we're doing something with like usage data and title lists and joining things. It's very simple to just save it and rerun it. And it saves so much time rather than just recreating queries and recleaning data every single time. So I really love it. It took a while to figure out, but once I did, I really loved it.
Totally agree. That might kind of answer the next question, but maybe not. What would you like to learn more about?
I think probably whatever the pages shelf could be used for. I know I've used it once or twice. I don't know what for. I can't remember what for. And I know it's probably really useful. And I see it in different tutorials and things. I'm like, I will get back to that eventually, and I never do. So one day.
I've only ever used it for animation. I don't know if it does anything beyond that, but yeah. What is one thing you wish you could go back in time and tell Tableau newbie you?
Probably to seek out user groups earlier. I don't think I looked for any until the last couple of years. I had a lot of freedom to kind of play around with it and just try everything out, and that was great. But it would have been nice to kind of eavesdrop in on groups like this and get a better feel for what other possibilities were, or even just hearing that other people were running into some of like the same problems. Like that kind of stuff really helps to be like, I'm not the only person having this issue. It's okay. That kind of stuff is really helpful. Sometimes it feels like you're in a little bubble working on your own problem. And it's useful to know that you're not the only one who's stuck on something.
That's really great advice. And you might have noticed in the chat, you're not the only librarian here either. So it's always
awesome
when you have somebody else in the same field, exactly, that running up against the same problems.
Yeah.
The last or next to last question, do you use Tableau outside of work? And if so, how?
No, I always mean to, and then I never get around to it. I sometimes kind of half start projects and then they just go nowhere, but no.
Completely understand that too. So is there anything else you'd like to share before we move on to the dashboard you'd like to spotlight?
I don't think so.
All right. In that case, we are going to open up this is one open access output analysis dashboard. So if you want to go ahead and tell us what you like about this dashboard and just kind of walk us through what you'd like to share with us.
Sure. So this is I did choose this because this is the only dashboard that I can share at the moment. Most of our stuff is not able to be shared. It is just internal documentation, but this is our open access dashboard, and it is based on open data that is available at openalex.org. And this is where our authors are publishing, both open and closed access. And so this is just showing the output, and it's this is the second iteration of a project. So this is an ongoing project, and it's actually evolved a fair amount since this dashboard even. We're looking at this, I think I said earlier, to try to figure out where our authors are publishing and who they're collaborating with. We're also looking to see how much they are spending on article processing charges to see how we can help with that. The first time we did this, we used a different data source, and in doing the data analysis and putting it all together, we realized that it wasn't sufficient data. It was primarily science-based, and we were hoping most of open access is in the sciences, but we were trying to get a wider view of where people were publishing. So we looked to OpenAlex to try to get an even broader range of subjects. So we are gathering more data, and this is what you're looking at right now. So this is showing the type of open access status, the average article processing charges paid, where they're publishing, the type of documents they're publishing, and whether they are Columbia corresponding authors, which gives us the best idea of whether they paid the article processing charges. So this is helping us understand a little bit more about how we can better support them. Even putting this together, we realized that we needed more data, and we went back and did some API queries to gather data about the funders. So we want to know who is funding everything. So where are the grants coming from for some of this research? So the next step of this is to kind of add that all in and figure out how we can kind of make connections there and see connections there. So based on some of the funders, can we see anything? So that's kind of the next step. And that the process there is just going to be throwing it in there and just clicking around and starting to kind of mess around and see what we see. I really don't have a game plan for that part, because a big part of this has been going in and generating questions based on the data. We're kind of going into this with an open mind. And a lot of questions have come out of it that have been really good and have really guided a lot of the discussion, and created more questions and more data to look into and created a larger project. And it's been really useful and really helpful. And so the white block at the top where it says overview, and then the text next to that, those are all buttons for the different pieces of it. And then they just show the different document types, the different publishers. And then within libraries, we have agreements with some publishers, and we might look into agreements with other publishers. There's just a lot of boring details to it that really interest us, but might not be as interesting to anybody else looking at it. But they are helping. Stuff like this is really helping our management team get a better idea of some of the questions they want us to be looking into, because this is such a growing field, and we've really never taken a look at it like this before. And we really have to start looking at this, especially as it continues to grow and change, and it's just constantly changing. We're always getting new potential deals with publishers, or updates about existing deals, or changes to it. So this is just an evolving landscape. So it'll be really interesting to see how it continues to change, and how stuff like this, we might end up creating a dashboard and it might have to change again. We might settle on the data, we might settle on a view for this, and we might have to just change it because everything gets completely altered. So
I just want to.
Oh, go ahead, Roshni.
I was gonna say, I just want to add, like, there's some really nice tooltips here. Like, you've got some vision tooltips on this tab. On the overview tab, there's like some, some sentences that help tie in, like, okay, this is what the green is, and like, all of that data is kind of it's in that sentence form, which is really great. It's a lot better than like the default tooltips that you often will see. So I just want to shout out, edit your tooltips like Jessica has here, because they can really add some more context and add more useful information that maybe doesn't need to be front and center, but is helpful to people as they dig in. That's all I had to say.
And I was going to say, you're the first person to spotlight a dashboard that you actually built. So you're the first person I can ask. Is there anything that you learned from this process? Were there any big challenges that you found yourself up against in the build?
I would say actually the tooltip is something that I had to learn to do more of, and I probably could add a few more of. I kind of default to a little bit less, a decent amount of information, but less sentence structure. And based on feedback, I've been asked to make it more of a sentence structure. I am much more of a count is blank, some percent equals blank. So the data is always there, but not so much a sentence. And most of our stakeholders prefer to see the sentence. So this has really helped me remember that even though I am not an expert in this, I'm still learning a lot about this, the content of this in this kind of field, but I still find myself getting in a bubble, and I need to step away from that bubble and remember to explain the terms to people who might have even less familiarity with it. So doing the tooltips to have like a sentence structure to kind of add a bit more context has been really important for this. And it's reminded me to do it for some of our other dashboards, because I just think it really helps because we have, I'm sure in other fields too, but especially in libraries, there's so many acronyms and there's so many definitions and terms and things everywhere. And you get so used to them that you just say them and people look at you like, I don't know what that means. It's like, oh, why not? So yeah, explaining more in the tooltips definitely helps.
Yeah, and I see you have a data dictionary at the end as well, which can be very helpful.
Yes, and I need to add more to this as we add more of our funder and grant stuff. So this part will continue to grow as well.
Well, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so, other than support your local library. That's pretty much it.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. We really appreciate you being our Meet a Community member this month. And if anyone's interested in being our community member in the future, librarians or otherwise, please fill out our interest form, which we can provide a link for in the chat. All right. It's time for tips for tricky transfer calculations. Say that 5 times fast. I'm going to share with you a dashboard that I built and some problematic calculations that I encountered along the way and how I dealt with them. So at first, when I was presented with this, I was afraid. You could say I was petrified. I felt like I was being eaten by a dinosaur. But then I spent so many hours thinking how to get it right. And I got closer until I switched on the light. It was LODs, like outer space. And when it worked, it put a great big smile on my face. I finally broke the lock, and I want to share the key so you can do the same calculation as easy as 1, 2, 3. So please forgive my butchering of that song, but it was too fun not to find a way to incorporate all those wonderful Bitmojis. And as you can probably figure out, we're going to be talking about nested LODs in this presentation. I didn't even know that nested LODs were a possibility until I came across this problem. And so without further ado, let me share my screen. And we'll walk you through it. So first, a little bit of background. I was asked to build a transfer credit articulation dashboard, and it had to answer questions like, what are the most common courses that students receive transfer credits for? And can we see the top 5 for a specific major compared to like the top 5 overall? And they wanted that to be something they could change, like top 10, top 20. So, you know, we wanted to do that with a parameter instead of just a filter or something. They wanted to be able to look at this by student type. They wanted to be able to see when the credits were transferred in, whether it was at the beginning of their first term or it was after a subsequent term. They wanted to be able to see what type of credit it was, whether it was from an AP course or transferred from a North Carolina community college or a four-year institution, et cetera. And they wanted to be able to see how many students didn't transfer any credits at all. But that came later after I had already built the dashboard. And then they decided, oh, well, we need to include everyone. So yeah, this is the result. This is the end product of the transfer credit articulation dashboard. On the left, we have a bar graph sorted descending with the top 5 transfer courses highlighted for one selected major. In this case, we've got healthcare management. And then on the right, we have a bar graph with the top 5 transfer courses overall. And those are highlighted. And you see that they don't all match up. So that was one of the tricky things, but that's actually not the tricky thing we're going to talk about. So each label shows the number of students who transferred that course and then the percentage they make up of the population. And then if you hover and you read the tooltip, which is in a sentence, yay. Again, I don't do that as often as I should either. Then you'll see that for the selected terms and filters, 167 or 60.9% out of 274 students majoring in healthcare management successfully transferred in credits for Psychology 1200 Psychological Foundations, giving it a rank of 1 for that major. And then we see the same information for overall. So 24,378 or 43.6% out of 55,947 students successfully transferred in credits for Psychology 1200 Psychological Foundations, giving it a rank of 2 overall. So we see that as number 1 for the major, number 2 overall. All right, that was the easy part. The problem I was having though was the percent. So it works great when you have no filters set. We checked the numbers, everything was right. But then if you wanted to limit this to see when were credits transferred in, and we wanted to just see in the initial term, you'll see here, it is maintaining my number of students in the major. So 274 students versus all still 274 students. That's working correctly. But originally, when I did this, it was not working correctly. So if I filtered for the initial term, now I only have 232 students. And I know that there are more than that who majored in healthcare management. So my problem is this is filtering the students out when I'm selecting course filters. And that is the way that Tableau works. It is not doing anything wrong. That is the way it's set up. But I wanted it to not filter students out when I was using course filters. I only wanted it to filter students out if I was using student filters. So the problem was the calculation I was using for this percent. So if I look at the calculation here, The percent of cohort calculation that was working incorrectly, thus the DNU or do not use, was saying, including the course, I want to count the number of students. So the number of students in that specific course. And then I want to divide that by the total number of students excluding the course. Like I said, it worked great when you weren't doing any sort of filtering. So how did I get it to work correctly? That's where the nested LODs come in. So if we go to this and we look up our population. All right, so it actually, I broke it into 3 different calculations because that's how I roll. I like to break it down into smaller pieces. I'm not very good at doing it all at once. So the first calculation is the selected major population. So my little comment to myself, this needs to be fixed for all available student filters. And so I also have a note separate from this in my dashboard that if any student filters are added, I need to go back in and edit this calculation. So we have fixed at the cohort term, student type, in and out of state, full-time, part-time, and age group. The distinct count if the major matches the major that we've selected. So we have our distinct count of students at all of these fixed attributes for this specific major. All right, so that was the first part. And then the second part was our student population for that major. And this was excluding the course that they transferred in. We're going to sum up all the students that were in that selected major. And then the last part was calculating the percent of the students in that major. So now we have our nested part. We're going to include the course, count the students in the distinct major, and then we're going to divide that by excluding the course and summing the students in our population major, which if you remember, if we actually copied and pasted this in here instead, it would all be a very long drawn out nested LOD. So that's my nested LOD broken into little bite-sized digestible pieces. Had to do the same thing, although at a slightly simpler level for the overall numbers. So starting with our population, again, we're fixed at all of the different student attribute filters and counting our students overall. And then we look at our student population, excluding the course. We sum our distinct count at those student filter attributes again. And then we calculate the percent of the students. So including the course, the number of students divided by excluding the course, the sum of the population overall. So that got me to the correct numbers. Now when I filter anything up here in the course filters, my number of students in the denominator stays the same. But if I were to come down here and only look at new transfers, now my number of students changes because, you know, we're only looking at new transfers. Therefore, my cohort needs to change. So that was the tip for tricky transfer calculations. It literally took me probably 2 full days, 2 full 8-hour work days to figure out. Any questions? I can try to answer them, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to.
So we had one question from Kelly. Who specifically in the institution requested that dashboard?
So this was requested by our transfer office, that they were trying to help, I think, recruiters and advisors both figure out, you know, what to advise your students to take when they are in a community college or doing dual enrollment or anything of that sort. And then next, they want us to kind of work on a reverse of this, where it's what are students coming in and they don't have to fulfill, say, their gen ed. requirements or something like that.
Cool. Thanks. One more question. What is the level of granularity for the underlying data?
So the level of granularity, underlying data, without going back and looking at my Tableau prep workflow, I'm going to say 1 record per student in their cohort term with a row for every course that they transferred in. And if they didn't transfer any, then just a row with all of their student attributes for their transfer term.
The fact that you remember those details is mind-blowing, which is also the same comment that I'm seeing throughout the chat. So yeah, amazing. And Inga, yes, the recording will be available. We'll put it on the event page probably by the end of the week. And we'll also try to, if I remember, or if Ginny remembers, if either of us remembers, we'll try to also put it in the HETUG Slack space. So yeah, thank you, Ginny.
Yeah.
So we're going to plug this one more time, actually a couple more times. We are doing a raffle for swag. Right now, it looks like we're going to be able to give away over 15 one-year licenses, more if more people join join the event. It's one of the magic things about having a couple of TUG ambassadors in this meeting. So the link for the what the prize is in the Slack, and the link to enter to win is also in here. And we will share this out, or sorry, we'll come back and share the winners of the raffle closer to the end of the meeting. But in the meantime, Sam, Professor McGonagall, are you there?
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, my fellow CCCTUG leaders and I have hashed this meeting to bring you the Tableau Sorting Hat. And so we are going to go over, or they are going to go over some different sorts, and we're going to figure out if their data is as daring as Gryffindor, as dependable as Hufflepuff, as cunning as Slytherin, as sharp as Rude. And so first up, we have Rachel, who's going to demonstrate some clicking things that you can do to sort. So let's figure out what house Roshi.
So I'm going to show some very easy, quick things. So you can click on all of these buttons to sort things alphabetically, for example. You can also, ooh, that's not what I meant to type. I meant to type tagline. All right, there we go. So we can also, sort by tagline if I wanted to. Look at that. Look at that. All that sorting. Really, really easy. I can add a year. And that's not how I do this. Live demos, man. Last time Sam had a live demo. So now, I'm getting some of the I can't do live demo stuff. But look at that. You can sort by year. I can I can have it sorted by year and then hide the year of release. Look at that. And just have this sort of force sorted by year. I can do all sorts of things by just adding fields and sorting and hiding and all sorts of things. And if I don't want other people to be able to sort, if I don't want the end users to be able to sort this because I have it sorted by year and that's how this has to go, I can go to worksheet here and actually turn off sort controls. So here, right now, if I hover, you see the little tiny A to Z. You barely see it because this is a really big screen. But if I go to worksheet and turn off show sort controls, look at that. I have now fixed this sort to always sort by the year of release. So the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone will always be at the beginning. So Professor McGonagall, what house am I?
So it turns out your data is as cunning as Slytherin.
Do I want to see that again?
The hat would be saying it there. But...
Okay.
Slytherin.
There we go.
Okay, so great. Next up, we have him. He's going to do some default patterns. So let's figure out which house is in.
There we go.
Can you?
Hi, everybody. Okay, my tip and trick is that I like to work smarter rather than harder. So I'm looking at the list of alphabetized Harry Potter titles here, and that's great. And I can go through and manually sort these into whatever order that I want. I'm going to leave it like that for a second just to really irritate the Harry Potter fans that know that this is not the correct order. But if I were to do this, anytime I pull the title off and put it back on or use it somewhere else, it goes back to that alphabetical sort, which I don't want to do. Instead, I go over to the title and I right click and I go to default properties and select sort there. And what that does is it allows me to sort manually so I can put them in the order that they really should be. And then when I do that, that's its default sort method. So I can go in and put these on any number of different, I got one more here. I can put these on any number of different sheets and it's always going to have this particular sorting process here. So it's not going to, so if I were to add a new sheet and throw title in there, it's going to keep the sort that I've set rather than the alphabetized version. If I decide I don't want to do that, I can go back in, go to default properties again, sort, and click the clear sort option, but just bear in mind that that's going to have an impact on all of your other sheets that you may have already set up. So that there's a little bit of caution that you need to use there, but that's one of my favorite ones. When I just have a handful of things that I know I'm going to keep in a specific order, that's a quick and easy way to get it done. So with that, what house am I in now?
Gryffindor!
That was pretty daring. Thanks, Kim. Okay, so who is next? Next up, we have Lisa, who is going to show how to sort, right? Let's figure out who Lisa is.
Yes, so I'm going to be talking all about sorting by a field. And so here, just like my Slytherin and Gryffindor brethren, I have a list of the Harry Potter movies, and it is sorted by default alphabetically. But I would like to sort them by the year they were released. Now you saw Roshni do this, right? She grabbed year from the data pane and she dragged it onto her view, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to put year in my view because that adds a cut to my data, which will sometimes, as I'll show you in a minute, make a chart render differently, or maybe you can't render it how you want to at all. So I don't even want year in my view. I just want to do it using the title. So I'm going to right click on title and select sort, and I'm going to get this handy pop-up, and it defaults to data source order. I'm going to go in here and change it to field. Now, when I click on field, I get two more drop downs, one for the field name and one for the aggregation. So like I said, I want to sort this by year. And before I click on that, I just want to point out, you saw Kim sort this. Sorcerer's Stone should be first, then Chamber of Secrets, then Order of Phoenix, or excuse me, the Prisoner of Azkaban. And so that's what I'm expecting to see as soon as I click year. And when I do that, someone's used the Confundus charm on Tableau because that is not the order that the movies came out. So what's the problem? It's this. It's the aggregation. So Tableau is seeing year as a number. So it is summing it up across all the rows of data. And that's creating some issues. So we don't want that. Instead of using sum, I'm going to change this to min, which is just going to essentially take the single value that we have for a year. And then all is right in the wizarding world. Again, all my movies are in order. So I want to jump out of this data for 1 second. I'm going to talk about some Hogwarts enrollment data because this is a trick that I use pretty much on the daily. This is almost every dashboard I create at work uses this trick that I just talked about. So here I've got my enrollment by term description, but Tableau sorts alphabetically. So it's all the fall terms, all the spring, all the summer. But I would like to see these in the order that they actually happened, right? I would like to see summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring. And so again, I'm going to use that sort by a field. Now, hopefully you have something similar in your data, like this term code, which is just a numeric value for our terms. If you don't have it, you can create one organically with a calculated field. If you will have questions about that, I can talk about it in the chat later. But hopefully you have a code for each of your terms, because then what you can do is you can do what I just did with those movies, which is sort by it. So instead of using my data source order, I'm going to change it to sort by my term code. And again, Tableau is not going to sort it how I think it is because of the aggregation. So I'm going to need to change that one to min as well. And now we have our terms sorted in the order that they happened. And that is my sorting. So which house am I in? Please, not Slytherin, not Slytherin.
Ravenclaw!
You are as sharp as Ravenclaw, let's see where your data is, I guess. Okay, so last but not least, we have me, who is going to be sorting using a parameter. So let's figure out, and population. So let's figure out which house she means.
I was on mute. All right, so obviously I'm not Ravenclaw. So I'm going to show you how to sort with parameters. I've already built out a table. It has all of our titles, the IMDb rating, the number of votes, the runtime, and the year of release. So obviously it is sorted by title because that's the first in the row, and that's just the default. But I want to be able to sort by any of these 4 different measures that I have in my table. So what I'm going to do is create a parameter, a sort by parameter, and I'm going to make this a string. So I want to be able to sort by movie order, IMDb rating, number of votes, and runtime. So those are the 4 options. So the next thing I'm going to do is create a parameter for sort by, because I want to know, sort order, because I want to be able to change this. Do I want this to be ascending or descending? I want the option to do either or. So I have another string parameter with just those 2 values in it as well. Then I'm going to write a calculated field. So we've got our calculated field called sort by. So if the parameter, the sort by parameter equals IMDb rating, then I'm going to use the average IMDb rating. If it's number of votes, I'm going to use the max number of votes. If it's runtime, I'm going to use the runtime in minutes, the max runtime in minutes. And if it's movie order, I'm going to use the min year of release. And okay, so I'm going to just drag this onto my rows. And because it drags out as a measure, I have to then go and change it to discrete. And then I need to put it in front of title, because that is going to be what sorts the order. So if I show the parameter for sort by, I can change this. So there it's sorted by the IMDb rating, and then there are a couple with the same rating. So that's going to then order those by alphabetically within that rating, the number of votes. So we were just checking this, and it looks like everything is working correctly to go ascending, because I didn't put the piece in there to allow it to change between ascending and descending. So I'm going to go back in and edit this again, and I'm going to add just a little. I have this commented out, so I'm going to have to do some. So I'm going to multiply this. If it's ascending, I'm going to multiply it by 1, and if it's descending, I'm going to multiply it by -1. I'm going to hit apply, and now I'm going to show my parameter for the sort order and change this to descending, and there it is. So that is also working as intended. Yes, yes it is. So then I'm going to obviously hide this header, because I don't want people to see the sneakiness behind the scenes that is assisting with this sorting. Another thing you could do, if you didn't want to use the parameter as a drop down or whatever, you could make buttons, parameter buttons, and add some parameter actions to change the parameter with those buttons. But I don't want to go into anything that's that time consuming today. The one other piece I will show is that you can put in another line to sort alphabetically, because it defaults to that, but then when you're using these parameters, you can't get back to that. So let's go ahead and edit our sort by parameter to say alphabetical as the last option, and our sort by calculation. So if you want to sort alphabetically, you can use this ASCII and I can't think of the word, this ASCII calculation, wrap title in that and use the min. Say okay. So if I change this to alphabetical, you'll see that it does indeed change the titles to sort alphabetically. What it will not do is change between ascending and descending. And if you want to know why, when you show the header again, you'll see that there's only one character for all of these. So that is how you sort using a parameter. What house am I in?
So that was very dependable. Thank you, Jenny. And so, yeah, I just put it in the chat too in response to Kim's message. So yeah, thank you. That was amazing, everybody. And so next we have our newest Slytherin, who's going to show us how to get some custom colors in Tableau. So we'll have some cunning custom colors for you right now. So take it away, Roshni.
Awesome. So this is actually, it's really great that we didn't have time for this last month, because in the last month, Alex Wallachek from the Auckland Tableau user group and a Tableau user group ambassador released this really cool tool that will help us make custom color palettes in Tableau. So we could, if we wanted the Hogwarts colors to be part of our Hogwarts data viz, we can do that. And how do you ask? So there are always ways, like you can manually edit colors. So if you're in this color palette menu, you can double click on this little blue box next to accessories, and then you can choose whatever color you want for that one. You can choose, from the array of colors visible on the color shelf for diverging and sequential palettes. If you're putting a measure on color, you can choose the endpoints of your colors. And, you have all of these options to manually change a color, which is great if you feel like doing it every single time. And I don't know about you, but the cunning part of me says, homie, don't play that. Also, I love in living color. So creating custom palettes is the way to go. And there's some documentation in the Tableau documentation about how to do that. So everyone has a preferences.tps file in their Tableau repository. And it looks a little like this if you haven't ever touched it before. And if you don't have one, you can create one by just putting a text file titled preferences.tps in your My Tableau repository, that main directory. And then you can edit that and you can create all these color palettes. There's specific formatting details that you have to be really, really careful about. You have to specify what the codes are, but I don't know about you, but I have no idea how these codes that are listed here translate to actual colors. So it's not really the most user-friendly way of doing this. It's really just, well, I'm going to go to the web, I'm going to find my color, I'm going to paste it in. There's going to be a lot of copying and pasting, a lot of like testing and trial and error, and I don't have time for that. So how do I get the 16 color palette of Hogwarts colors and potentially some diverging and sequential palettes into my Tableau? Well, we're going to use the color manager for Tableau. And I did say that Alex is from Auckland, from New Zealand, and that's why there's a U in color. So it's not a typo. This is the one thing that I know for sure is not a typo. But basically, he built a tool that lets you copy and paste a list of hexadecimal color codes into the tool, and it will create the palettes for you. So we're going to actually demo that. And by the end of this, hopefully you'll be all, wow, I don't know which character this is. Is this Ron Weasley? Is that right?
This is Ron Weasley, yes. Good job. Yes.
Also, I know nothing about Harry Potter that I haven't learned in the process of this of us building out these sort workbooks. So bear with me. So this is the color manager tool. It's a very easy interface, and I'm gonna Google Hogwarts color palette, and I found this palette, and I'm gonna be super lazy. Is this spelled right? This is spelled wrong, isn't it? I'm not gonna pay attention to that. I'm just really happy that this person put together this color palette for me. But I'm basically just copying what I see on the screen. There's hexadecimal codes, there's names, there's all sorts of stuff like mixed in with those codes. But I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna paste these colors, and look at that. I have my palette of all of the colors for all 4 houses. If I only wanted to do the Gryffindor houses, or sorry, the Gryffindor colors, I can create a different color palette, just remove that, paste that in, and if I click this create everything button, not only does it create that categorical color palette, so I can use the 2 different reds and the 2 different yellows and golds, but it also creates this bunch of sequential palettes and diverging palettes, including a version where sometimes you have that blue orange diverging palette with like the white in the middle for something close to 0 or whatever the middle of your number range is. So it creates that bright palette, that bright middle, and then it also creates a dark one that really is just straight from one color to the other. And it creates all of these different variations. You can rename them whatever you want. So I can do like light yellows, golds, and so on. I can delete specific palettes, like maybe I don't want any of these diverging ones, I just want the sequential ones. I can delete whatever number I want. I can even go in here and change individual colors or delete an individual color. And all of that I can then put into a preferences file by just downloading this file, saving it in my Tableau repository, and then closing and reopening Tableau desktop. And that new set of color palettes will be available for me to choose from when I, put a pill on the color shelf or a dimension on the color shelf. And yeah, you can also move these things around if you do later want to go and edit your preferences.gps file, which is something that I would do if I maybe I just want to get rid of some of these colors, but I don't want to reload in the tool. I can manually move the rows around in my text editor as well after the fact if I want. So this is really awesome. Alex is a great guy. So and he builds really cool tools. And yeah, so you just replace the preferences file with the one that you download, or you can have multiple preferences files just living in your Tableau repository, and then as you want to use one set of color palettes, this is a bad example, but let's say you're a consultant, because most of us are not consultants, but let's say you're a consultant and you have one set of color palettes for company 1, you have another set that you use for company 2, or you have all these ones that you use for personal projects, and then you have a handful that you use for work, and you want to keep them separate. You can actually have multiple preferences files. You just have to rename and replace them as you open and close Tableau. If you're going to work on personal projects, just replace the preferences file with your personal projects preferences file, and if you're going back to do work ones, you can switch it out. So there's a lot you can do with this tool alone, and just with your preferences files and custom color palettes. But hopefully you guys will all check out this tool and play with it and use it and tell your friends, because again, Ron Beasley says it's awesome. Okay, so if you create a package with a custom file, will it save and install if it is moved to a different computer? So like a packaged workbook, my understanding is that the preferences file does not get packaged into the workbook. I have not tested this officially, but I have vague memories of passing a packaged workbook over to a coworker, and that had custom color palettes. And when they opened it, they were unable to use those custom color palettes. So my guess is no, but it's worth testing out to see if they do transfer. Again, it's really easy to just send the file over separately if you are moving it to a different computer. I tend to copy my entire Tableau repository, or at least the preferences file and the shapes folder, between computers, just so that I have the same set of shapes and the same preferences files in all of my tableauing. So back to official slideshow mode. And there we go. So this is the last option or last opportunity to enter the swag raffle. So we're going to actually look at what you could win. Probably should have done this earlier, but again, we did not rehearse any of this. So the Tableau e-learning is just a bunch of self-guided options to that have different curriculum for like how to use Tableau Desktop, how to use Tableau Prep, how to do server admin tasks, data visualization best practices, governance, all sorts of things. There are a bunch of different courses that they're organized by now like paths. So if you're an analyst versus a server admin versus whatever else, data scientist. But there are a whole bunch of different groupings of them. But basically, with the e-learning subscription, which again, we're giving away a number of them, at least 16, I think, at present count. So you have access to all of the courses that are part of the e-learning package, basically. So that is what is up for raffle. You should go ahead and enter. We're gonna, I think we have one more slide before we draw the raffle prizes. Gonna throw the links back in the chat one last time. And then let's talk about stickers. So Ginny, what do we want to say about stickers? I don't know if this is actually what we want to say.
I want to say that you cannot scan the code to win stickers.
You cannot, no.
Maybe
but we love stickers. Perhaps
you need stickers.
Exactly.
To give out.
We have one design. We have one design that we are going to get printed this week, or we're going to send in to get printed this week. But if we're sending out a whole bunch of stickers, I don't know if you guys know this, but USPS raised its postage rates yet again yesterday. So like the cost of shipping for one sticker seems ridiculous. But if we can get a collection of stickers and send out a collection of stickers to everyone who wants HETUG stickers, that's going to make it worthwhile.
Yes.
So
like
we need sticker designs.
Different stickers, at least.
Exactly. So we're going to be posting in the Higher Ed Tug Slack channel about details of what the sticker contest looks like. Note, we have not decided what the sticker contest looks like.
If you have suggestions, let us know.
Yes. But yeah, if you have design options, we'll be posting when the contest is officially open. And we'll also post how to get your HETUG stickers. We are probably going to take a month or so to get all of the designs printed. So your HETUG stickers are going to be an amazing back to school prize, probably. So yeah, stay put and keep your eyes on the Slack. And again, if you haven't already entered the raffle, you should do that right now, because I'm about to pull the names. Let me find my wheel of names. You guys like the narration? This is how we do this. All right, so well, these are not the names. Again, we are going to do this again, so make sure you register for next month's meeting. But in the meantime, tell us what you thought of this month's meeting, because what we hear from you can help us plan for the future. And there's a bunch of links that Ginny just posted in the Slack, so thank you. That includes the links for next month's meeting. We're going to meet Ashley Morris from Harvard Med School. Deborah Takash is going to do some tips and tricks on SQL, converting or finding SQL functions in Tableau Prep, which is really a cool way of kind of getting into Tableau Prep and getting other people into Tableau Prep. And we have a TBD on our presentation. We have a really good lead on one. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see. It may be on Tableau Prep. And yeah, if you want to present, or if you know someone else who you think should present at HETUG, go ahead and send them the link to the to present. If you have ideas for the sticker contest, you should also put that in the feedback for today's survey, or just post about it in the HETUG channel or the Higher Ed Tug channel in Slack, and we can chat about it, talk about it. The link for the random wheel spinner is wheelofnames.com. Very, very easy. Wheel of Names, all one word. We also, just a reminder that today was our birthday. Next month is the CCCTUG Tug's birthday party. So go ahead and register for that. And there's going to be a data viz, sort of a makeover Monday type thing for that meeting. And then there's a new tug that's starting up called the Data Plus Maps Tug. Their first meeting is August 28th. So go ahead and register for that one too. That is it for today. We're going to go into breakout rooms, but we want to thank everyone for coming, for presenting. Thanks, Jessica, for letting us ask you all sorts of things about how you got into Tableau and what you Tableau. To the CCCTUG Leads and to Ginny for sharing, and for everyone for entering the contest, the raffle, for wishing us happy birthday a gajillion times, and just for making this tug what it is. Higher Ed Tug wouldn't exist without all of you, and we're really just grateful to be part of this community and to help this community grow. So thank you, everyone. Happy HETUG birthday.